Good evening, everyone. This is the webinar so many of you have been waiting for. We get to play with the tools that make word art in Stitches stand apart from other software on the market. To begin with, Word Art in Stitches is a standalone software, which means when you purchase it, you have all of the tools that you need right in the software, right on your screen. And like the other packages within the Dime Inspiration series, you'll get free updates as they are created. The feature that makes Word Art in Stitches so unique, right here in front of us, bubble text, and how easy it is to use one of the 625 shapes included. And if that weren't enough, you can use your own shape. Let's take a look. As we begin, the tool for bubble text is on the toolbar right above the ruler. It is the brown bubble with the letter F on it. We'll go ahead and click that. As we are brought into the dialog box for bubble text, we start with shape. It's all about the shapes. Remember, 625 as of today. The default is the rectangle. If you know the name of the shape that you're after, you could use the drop-down arrow and access it by name. But if you want to a little bit more visual, we can click on the ellipse button, and here we see the list of headings of all of the shapes. Some of them have plus signs, some of them do not. If it does not have a plus sign, we simply click on that heading. Here we see the cancer awareness designs. September almost over is ovarian cancer awareness. Starting October, it is breast cancer awareness. We also have leaf, which is very appropriate for this time of year, no matter where you are. If we use the plus for objects to expand it, we see all kinds of things. Borders, this is what you saw on the opening screen of Word Art. We have bubble text, which is what this is named for, the idea of having a little box for words and so forth from cartoons. As we see the others, we take a look at shoes. And what does it say about us that shoes has the most shapes other than states and icons? There are 48 different shapes of shoes to choose from. Some of you, I'm sure, are looking like your closet right there. We will start with our sneaker with cleats that indicates some type of sport. We can double click it. It is brought to the screen. This first time through the bubble text dialog box, I'm going to leave all of the defaults as they are. The only thing we're going to change is the border. We'll choose a run, and we'll type in our words, of course. Put in some things that have to do with sport, but we will spell them properly. We have our words typed in. We'll leave all of the other defaults as is. Come down here, click on Apply. And what it does is it takes just a moment to render, and it brings all of our words in the shape that we have asked for. If we're happy with that, all we need to do is click on OK, and you see that this design has been brought to screen with all of the defaults. That's how easy it is. Let's try it again. And believe me, you are going to want to try it again and again and again. We'll bring up a clean screen, back into our bubble text, and this time we'll spend a little bit more time taking a look at the different choices that you have and what those choices mean. Once again, we'll go back into shape. We'll use our ellipse. We're going to expand holiday. As we click on the plus sign, all of those subheadings come under holiday. But one thing I want you to not forget is not only do we have these categories under here, but you can also click on the main heading and see additional shapes. Here we see some symbols of faith, but we also see this Memorial Day kneeling soldier. How powerful it could be. think about putting your own messages into that shape and adding this to your Quilts of Valor. We're going to go into Halloween, and of all of these fun shapes that we have, we'll double-click the witch's hat. We start then under width and height. This is the size the hat shape can be, but this is also where you could control that size if you are interested in a particular hoop size. So if we wanted it in our, say, our 5x7 hoop, we would use 130 and 100 by 180 millimeter and make those changes here. For this particular hat, though, I'm going to leave it in the 200 size. 200 millimeter would be 8 inches. 158 is approximately 6 inches. So that would be an 8x6 hoop, or certainly this would fit in an 8x8 or an 8x12 hoop, whichever you might have. The keep aspect ratio is going to keep that proportional, so we'll leave that checked. And now we take a look at border. The default is artwork. And what that means is if we leave the artwork on, this outline of the hat will come in as artwork only, no stitches included. If you would like some stitches around your shape, we can choose from Run, which will give us a 2-ply, the standard or a bean, or we can use the steel stitch. We'll go ahead and choose the steel. You will have control over the width of that steel. We'll type in our words, something fun for our hat. You saw I used the hat in that opening picture. I like the hat. So here are our words, and we can come down here and click on Apply. I'm going to anticipate some of your questions right here with this word box. What is the number of words that we can put into this box, or what is the limit? How many can we put in? The number of words that you can put in this box is based on your video card and your RAM or working memory on your computer. I have yet to run into a wall where I cannot add the number of words that I want, but something to keep in mind, the more words that you put here, the less occurrence of each there will be over here in your shape. I'll anticipate another question. Can you type a sentence in this white box? Well, you certainly can type the sentence, but when you apply it, it's not going to stay in the sentence order. And the reason for that is this button down here, the Apply, is a random positioning of the words that it is given. And it's set up to do the words individual divided by a space. So yes, you can type that sentence, but it's not going to stay in that order. We take a look at height. 20 millimeter is the default. 20 millimeter is about 3/4 inch. We'll leave it there for the moment. Take a look at orientation. Orthogonal means both vertical and horizontal. It's a combination of both. If we use the drop-down, we can see that we're given just horizontal, and I'll go ahead and apply that. And as the name indicates, the words are going to come in horizontally. It's easier to read if that is part of your project. If you need that to happen, you can see that that's all on the horizontal. We're used to reading words like that. However, we do have the option of vertical. We do an apply, wait for it to render, and with vertical, just as the name indicates, we're going to get all of our words on the vertical linear. This too might be appropriate for a particular shape, or if you're going to rotate the shape, you might want the words vertical, but the idea is we have options there. The last one is any, and any is going to give us both vertical and horizontal in addition to diagonal. We'll go ahead and apply that and wait for that to render. And the thing with any, because it gives us that additional diagonal shape, it's going to fill up your shape better than it can on an orthogonal situation. So you might decide you like this look if you're really going for more words in a space. We'll leave it on any. Take a look at the font combo. By default, it's set to block. The reason that's default is because it's the first in line alphabetical order of those that came built in with the software. You see some buttons to the side of it. A green plus, we have the ability to create our own font combo. Red minus, we have the ability to delete our own combo. And we also are given a pencil. And this allows you to see what's in this particular combo. And we have 3 of them. There is a rule that we need to follow. Every font combo must contain at least 1 micro font and 1 normal font. Just as a refresher, your micro fonts are those that have been specifically digitized to go from a 3 to a 6 millimeter. And then, of course, a normal font. You can see it right there. If we do an OK, and we took a look maybe at what's inside kids, we could click on that, use our pencil, and see the fonts that are specific to kids. Once again, we have that necessary micro font. We're going to use exotic. If you want to take a look with me, I know what's in there because I like this one, but it has bamboo in there as far as wonton, also using the font called exotic, as well as how small is our micro font. So this is the one we're going to use. We'll go ahead and apply it. When we are working with the object settings, which is the area underneath, right in here, we're going to talk about min size and max size. Minimum size is the smallest that you want your words to be, and it is a percentage. The default is 30%, and what that means is 30% of this height right here, this 20 millimeter that's set as the default. So 30% of 20 millimeter is 6 millimeter, so the smallest our words will go will be a little less than a 1/4 inch. The maximum size is the largest you want your words to go, and the default is set to 120%. This is 120% of the 20 millimeter, which is 24 millimeter, which is a little less than an inch. I'm going to exaggerate these a bit so you can see what they do over here in our hat. I'll put this one down to 15, and I'm going to raise the maximum up to 150. And I'll go ahead and do an apply. And a couple things here. It'll take just a moment to render because those words are going to come in very small. But you will notice that the hat really fills up with words. And your first instinct might be, oh, I like that look. Look how filled it is, and it really takes the shape of that hat nicely. But I want to bring you back to a little bit of logic. First of all, remember that the 15% of 20 millimeter is 3 millimeter, and that's about 1/8 of an inch. So this is very small in here. The 150 times 20 millimeter is 30 millimeter, which is about a little under 1 1/4 inch. So we range from an 1/8 of an inch to about 1 1/4. That's a very big range in here. And plus, you need to ask yourself, do you really want to be stitching all of these little tiny words? What kind of fabric are you using, and so forth. Also, take a look right down here at the bottom. There's a warning that it gives us. The text heights are out of recommended ranges. So yes, we're allowed to put them at those sizes, but it is not recommended by the software. We have very little text trying to be stitched out. So let's change this back. We can put it at 25%. The default was 30. And for this one, maybe a 110. The default was 120. I'll go ahead and apply so we get rid of our red warning down at the bottom. And now what we'd like to talk about is this space percentage. What this means, and here we can see the difference, okay? We're back to not so tiny, tiny. But this space percentage right in here, the default is 5%. This talks about how much white space is inside the hat in between the words. It doesn't mean that there's 5% between every single word in every single space, but it means that they have been left 5% apart from each other. Yes, we can change that. I'm going to exaggerate it down to a 3 and apply so you can see the difference. What it's going to do is bring those words even closer together, so it will have a little less white space between all of our words, and you can see more words in there. And then if I bump that up to 8% and apply, you'll see that, yes, indeed, we have more white space in between those. The thoughts there when you're using your spacing, you may want to change this if your words are long, if you have very long words, or if you want fewer words within the shape. Just like typing, the more white space we have around words, the easier it is to read. So you do want to keep that in mind. And then plus, this is not printed, this is stitched with thread and so forth, so that's going to be taking up some space as well. We'll go ahead and put that back to the default for 5, and I'd like to now draw your attention to the color theme. Before we take a look at what's offered, please notice that the first color here in line, the navy blue, is the color of the shape. The first color in line of any color combo will be the color of your shape. As we use our drop down, we can see the many different color themes that came with the software, but you do see 2 that were added, Kate Christmas, Kate Halloween. Those 2 are mine because, yes, we can create our own color theme, and I will show you how to do that in our next project. But since I've already got a Kate Halloween picked out, we'll go ahead and use that, but you'll also notice that I have started my color combos with black because I like to see black around my shape. Doesn't mean that I'll end up using a black thread. More than likely I do though, but I do like to see that. And then finally we have our decor. I'll go ahead and apply that spin to get my colors going. And when we go under Decor Combo, those of you that have Perfect Embroidery Pro might know this name. You'll certainly know the looks that we have once we have them on their screen. We see many different groups from our decor. We have one already set up for Halloween. I think that's very cute, Hallaboo. Kudos to the designers who named it that way. But we can take a look what's inside with our pencil, and we see some very appropriate decor. The decor comes in as satin stitch also. We'll go ahead and okay that. I am going to use it, so we'll do an apply. Takes just a moment to render, and we come up on our screen, and once it does its magic, pun intended, we can see here we have a ghost, here we have a spider web, and just depending on all of the other things, all of the measurements we already have set, the font we've chosen, etc., it's going to put in as many decor as it can. At this point, we would be ready. We could simply respin again if we were looking for other decor or other words or colors or whatever it is that we want to change. But before I actually use the OK, I'm going to stop here and ask Dory, do you have any questions? I do anticipate some questions on this bubble text dialog box, so I don't want to leave it yet until I answer any questions that might apply to this.
Yes, on the dialog box, can we add things to it? And does the decor always come in? I'm sorry, go ahead. Can we change?
Decor always come in what?
Our friend Mary wants to know, does the decor always come in with the first color? In other words, does it?
Not always. Good question, Mary. No, it does not follow this rule here with the black. It looks like in this instance that it did, but no, I've had other ones that come in. Some would have been purple, some would have been green, etc. We could do another apply and see if what might come up for that particular spin. And then the first part of that question, can we add things? We can. Obviously, we add our own words. Now, in this case, Mary, see how we don't have any decor? I'm going to go ahead and apply again while I'm talking. We can add our words, of course, but as indicated with these green plus buttons, we can add our own font combo, we can add our own color themes, and we can add our own decor. And we are going to do that with our next project as soon as we're finished with our hat. And see, once again, we don't have any decor in this one. And the thing about this is it's like you roll the dice and you get what you get on that roll of the dice. But the wonderful thing about this is I could continue to respin, respin, respin until I see a look that I'm happy with. And here we see the answer, Mary, to your question is no. We have an orange hat, we have a green spider web, whereas we saw that spider web come in black before. So it just depends on the spin or the throw of the dice, what we're going to get in that look. Any other questions, Dory, on this screen for the bubble text?
Yes, I have one more here that's very interesting. My friend Betty would like to know, can one word fill the object?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I could ask Betty to hold that thought, because I'm going to bring this hat to screen, but we absolutely can put one word and have it filled with the different font, the different color, the different sizes in that shape. So please remind me when we're finished with our hat and or our turkey, and I'll come back and we'll play with that. Good question.
Okay. Now, I do have another question.
Okay.
My friend Patty, we got lots of questions tonight. My friend Patty wants to know how much RAM is needed for this.
Dory, help me out with this one, please.
I can tell you that the majority of computers come based with at least 4 gig of RAM, and that should suffice very nicely. Perfect. In fact, it does suffice. So even if you've got a lot of, and I do mean a lot of different graphic programs, then you of course realize that you are going to have a heavier RAM computer. But the basic computer that you can buy nowadays is fantastic.
Super, thank you. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and bring that hat to screen. I do like the 3D on, and we have it's backed out just a little bit, and we have the hat on screen. If you liked what you saw here, we could go immediately to our file, save as, save it as C2S, go right back to file, save it as your machine format, take it to your machine, and off you go. But one of the beauties of this software is our ability to edit what is currently on the screen. First thing we need to remember is when we bring this to the screen, it comes in grouped. You have two options. You can either do a right click and ungroup it, or we could come up here to the toolbar and ungroup it there. And at this point, once it's ungrouped, we can go in and play with the other, in fact, all of the things that are in here. You can see that I'm sizing these decor a little bit only because I don't want the split satin to occur. Also, I could go in, and I like the way ink is up here, but it is just a little bit on my black outline, my steel stitch, so I can rotate that. And then if I have two magics in one place, I can bring that over and put that one here. I can move ink where I want it. I can move magic over. I also can change colors. I like my outline to be its own color. You notice that I have a couple words going on here in black. So perhaps I want to select some of my words in black, and I'll take those two and change those to purple. I right click on my purple, and then maybe this magic and this cackle and this wicked I might change to green, and maybe I would like my spider web to be black, so I'll go ahead and change that. But the idea is that you can go in and change your colors, your words, whatever it is that you'd like to do, and however much time you have to play with, we can go in and alter the things that you see here. Now sometimes people don't want to do this. This is fine. Once again, if you were happy with the way that it came out in the beginning, then you can leave it as it is and go stitch it. But if there's a couple things that you want to tweak, again, the beauty of this software is that we can. The other thing that you can do, if you see some of your words, we'll just pick cackle right here, and you think that those are very tight, you can come over, and the concepts, the properties of text are all available to us. We could go in here to this space percentage, and I might want to bump that up to a 10%. This space percentage is like your kerning. It's going to put some space between those letters themselves, and in doing that it gets a little larger, so I could maybe rotate my bat and move him into position. Make that cackle come down, and if I don't want two orange close together, I'll just simply change the color. I could go in and spread apart any words like that with our space percentage that I'd like to do. The other thing we could do is I could click on a word, come over here, and change just one word. Maybe you would like to put someone's name in there, and it becomes the thrill of discovery. It's only in there one time. So as someone is looking around and seeing what you've done, you know that it's a hidden message in there. And I put Dory's name in there because she works her wicked magic on all things technical. If this one was an extra one, I can simply select it and delete it. So here's our hat. And again, we could make it just the way we want, or we could have left it the way it first came in. The point is, this standalone software gives you everything you need right here on screen to create and modify your bubble text. Again, at this point, I would do a File, Save As, save it as my C2S, then go back, File, Save As, and for me, I would save it as a PES format for my machine, and you, of course, would save it for your machine. Okay, another one? Sure. We're going to go back into bubble text, back into our ellipse, once again on holiday, down to Thanksgiving, and we're going to pick the bird. This time, we do want him smaller. Our hat before fit into our 8-inch hoop. This time I want it to fit into my 4x4 hoop. So if I type, the largest measurement was a 200, so if I change that to a 100, the aspect ratio is on, so this height will also be within my 4x4 hoop. I'm going to choose Run for this turkey, type in my fun text, and I'm going to just go with all the fun, yummy stuff that comes our way, and of course the reason for it.
No calories, right?
I miss here. None. So, oops, we have left out my Y there. I'll go ahead and respin, and we bring all of our words to screen. Now remember, this little guy is smaller. He's in our 4x4 hoop. I'm going to leave the height at 20, but I am going to go in and choose any because of all these curlicue feathers and his little scrawny neck and his little tiny head. And you can see that here I still have very few words, and they're on the large side. I'm going to go to my Instead of using a built-in one, this time I'd like to show you how to create your own font combo. We'll click on the green plus. The first thing it wants us to do is to name it, and in this case I'm going to name it Kate Mix. Remember, there is the rule that we have to have one microfont. It's already there for me. I want to add another of my own. I really like bamboo, so I'm going to make that a part of my group. I'll use the plus sign again, scroll all the way down. All of these fonts are built into WordArt, and I'm looking for rounded. And then I have another favorite. It's all the way at the bottom, and it's called Tall. Please notice that this is for caps only. There are no lowercase involved in this font, but I'll go ahead and add that. And I also like another micro font, so I'm going to go here, and one of the ones that I like is the Bauhaus Small. So I'll add those, and you see that these are my choices. I've named it Kate Mix. I know it's going to go in alphabetical order. Anything that I create, I can start with my own first name, and they will all be grouped together. So I'll go ahead and do an OK for that. There's my font combo. I will respin just to set everything in motion, and we see more words in here. The other thing that I'd like to do is to go in and do some differences here with the sizes. I'm going to set the minimum size to 25. And the other thing that I do frequently, especially on small shapes like this in a 4x4, is I just ask for 100%. I don't want anything larger than what my measurement is right here, my 20 millimeters. So I'm going to leave it at 100%, but I am going to drop the space percentage down to a 3. And I'll apply and wait for that to render. And what should happen is I should get a few more words in there because I've asked for smaller and less spacing. Let's this time around go create our own color theme. So I'll click on my plus sign. I'm going to call it Kate Fall. And remember, I like my black to be the first color, so I'll start with black, and then I'll just add the other colors that I think would be nice for a fall look for my bird, or for anything that I choose to do for the fall. And I want a pretty green here. I'll add that green, and that should give us, let me throw in one more color, maybe a brown. That will give us a color. So here's my Kate Fall, the colors that I've chosen. I go ahead and OK it. The default, it sets to my choice here, and I'll apply it. You'll see a different spin on the words, different color scheme, and this time let's create our own decor combo. We'll go in, click on plus. I'm going to call it Kate Turkey. Now, I'm calling it Turkey because this is specific to this project. I'll certainly leave it in the list, but it's not something like my Kate Mix that I might use often. So now I'll use the green plus and look at all of these decor that come with your software. Okay. Again, they are all satin stitch designs, and they're meant to be small, but there are many of them. I'm going to bring in the spoon and fork, appropriate for our pie. We'll go ahead and get another. Since we're dealing with family, let's go all the way down to the end of the list and get the wine glass. That might be appropriate as well. And then at the very bottom, we also saw our fun little turkey, so we'll just give him another nod. And you could continue to add your decor. Now the thought here is you really don't want more than maybe 4, maybe 5, because the more you have in here, the less frequent that they'll be on your design. And you saw even with our witch hat that we didn't always come in with decor. This looks good. I'll go ahead and OK it, and I'd like to apply. And we'll see if we get some decor, and we certainly did. I want to come back to the color theme. You saw that we created this Cape Fall. I'm going to create one more because I want to bring in another thought for you when you name your own fonts or colors or decors. If it's something that you're going to use all the time, for example, if I'm going to set my favorite color theme, I'm going to start it out with a 0 and a space and then type in Caped Brights. Okay. The reason I started with a 0, those of you that you know your filing rules, numbers come before letters. So numbers are always going to be at the top of the list. 0, of course, being the starting. And then I put a space in there for 2 reasons. First, it's easy for me to see it, that it's not right next to the K. And also, in filing, nothing comes before something. So with a 0 and a space, I can guarantee that that's going to be at the top of my list, if not up at the top. And this point, I want to add my favorites, and I'll do so quickly. I'm just going to get my favorite brights, and you'll see here after we play how this comes in with my naming it in this fashion. And I like bright colors, and we'll just add the purple, and then that should do it for my particular mix. And as I do the drop down, you can see how the 0 allows that to be first in line. So in essence, I have now made this group my default because it's first in line alphabetically and will come in all the time. Certainly I could use the drop down and go to other colors that are in here, but that one will be first. I am going to go back to our fall though, because if I left it at brights, that's what we would get. And I'm going to give it one more spin on our turkey before we bring him to screen. And here he is. Oops, I'm going to give him one more, see if I can get another decor. I am going to show you a trick about the decor though, so not to worry if we don't get exactly what we're after. That looks good. We'll go ahead and do an OK and bring our turkey to screen. Turn on my 3D, drop him back just a little bit so he's not so big. And at this point, I can go ahead and select him, ungroup him, and make some changes. First thing I'd like to do is size this little turkey smaller so I don't have any satin issues, and then maybe rotate him a bit. I like this word pie, and let me see if that's going to fit right up there because we have pie on the brain. We'll put that in there. And if I've left an empty space, I can go get another word perhaps up here that was tight. I could change the color, maybe an orange. Oops, I didn't notice that I had that there. We'll go ahead and put in green. But we could play with the color and play with anything else that you saw that you wanted to do. There's a couple rolls over there. You know what? I might want one of those rolls to be Jell-O because there's always room for Jell-O. And now we're going to space him apart, put that in as our space percentage, and I am going to rotate him, grab that pink circle, rotate him, and definitely change the color so it stands out. But you see that we could play as much or as little as we'd like. And now let me bring a trick in here. What if we don't have as many decor as we'd like? I'm going to select everything about our little turkey and move him over to the side. And the trick is to go right back into our bubble text. I'm going to leave it at rectangle. I'm not concerned about the shape. I am going to drop that down to 100. Come into your text. Take out all words. So I have nothing in the word box. I will drop the minimum size down to my 25 and probably here 75 because I don't need them very large. And it is important that we go back and use the same color though that we had going on for our turkey. And at this point I go directly and pick my decor. So please notice no words, just decor, and we apply. It comes up on the screen with our rectangle filled of decor. I go ahead and do an OK. Bring that over just a little bit. Remember, this is grouped. I can ungroup it. And now, at this point, I did not get any wine glass in my decor, so definitely need one around family. We can just grab whichever one we see that is an appropriate size and drag that over and drop it right into our bird. Also, if there's something else that we would like in here, we actually got a good mix because we have our I'm going to move this turkey over just a bit so they're not directly onto themselves. And again, maybe if it's just really more about the wine, we could add another wine glass. We could pick up, if I moved the rolls up a little bit, maybe another set of spoon and fork. These are very tiny. I would not use those, but over here we have a good size set. Now, one of the things here, notice if I click on that, I only get the spoon because this is ungrouped. So if I select, oops, I'll just get him out of the way. If I select my spoon and fork, come up here and group them, now I can drag and drop them over on my turkey. So whenever you have the amount of decor that you'd like on your shape, at that point I can select all of the decor and delete them, select all of my turkey guy, right click, center origin. He's back in the center as he should be. Now, one other thing with this, if we come down and we are looking for the shape of our bird, I'm going to click on the plus sign and click on Run. We have the option to use the standard type. We could do 2-ply, we could do bean. I very much like a bean stitch, so I'm going to apply that, and we see that is darker. So that works quite well with that. I'm going to pause right here. We're not finished with our bird. We'll come back to him, but I will pause. Dory, do you have any other questions at this point?
Yes, I have 2 questions. One of them is relevant for right now.
Okay.
And that would be, can we add in shapes?
We absolutely can, and I will ask that you join me for the next webinar for word art, because that's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to bring in our own shapes, artwork, and so forth.
All right. And then are we going to talk about the envelope this time or next time?
I can do it towards the end. I want to see how much time we have.
Sure.
But the envelope, really, I can give you a quick hint here. If you're going to use the envelope, try to use your words in all caps, because when you work with a shape in those envelopes, the all cap, if you notice, every letter is the same height, so when you add a shape to that, then it's going to form the shape very nicely. If you have a word like gravy that has descenders in it, this word will not look as nice in an envelope as a word that's done in all caps. So that's just a quick hint on how to use that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
The next thing we need to address, because as we look at our bird and we come over here to sequence view, I'm going to right click and come up and collapse all. And you see all of these color changes in our bird. Lots and lots of them. There is no resequence by color in word art, but you could take it into Perfect Embroidery Pro if you own that software and do your resequence by color. But there is a way that we can do that here in word art, and I'd like to show you how, and it's really based over here in our sequence view. The first thing I want to point out, and some of you may have noticed it, can you tell down here on the thread chart how we really have 2 groups of our color theme? The black starts with 1, orange, yellow, green, brown, and then again black, orange, yellow, green, brown. This happens because of the things that you have set in the bubble text dialog box. Your number of words, your colors, your respins. there's no worries about it. I just want to point it out to you, and we certainly can rearrange as we need to for a better sequencing. But I just want to point that out to you. So the first thing that we want to do is to get only one group of colors. There's no reason why we need two. So we're going to do that first. What I like to do is come over here at the bottom and use my red minus remove any extras. So that took care of any colors that were not used, and it really was only number 10, the brown. Then I'm going to come over here into sequence view and pay attention to this index column. We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those first 5 colors are being used. But here, what I'm looking for now in this group, where this second set starts with a 6, I want to change any number that's 6, 7, 8, or 9 so that it becomes part of this first group. For example, here's a color number 6. Color number 6 is my black. So I'm going to come over here to number 1 and right-click on 1. I then look underneath it. There's a 7. 7 is the orange. I'm going to right-click on the number 2. That's the same orange, but in the first grouping. I then have a number 8. I'll do the same. 8 is yellow. Right-click on 3. And 9, right-click on 4. 7, right-click on 2. 9, right-click on 4, green. So now I've only used one grouping. I can use my minus sign again and get rid of all the doubles. So that takes care of that situation. But now I want to sort my colors. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but here's a 2, here's a 1. I'm going to click on that number 1. Actually, this is the only one I'm leaving by itself, is this outline of the turkey. I'm going to leave him alone. But number 2, let's see here, scroll up just a bit. I'm going to choose my number 2 here and drag it up and drop it on my first number 2. It will always do an expand. I'll grab the second number 2, drag and drop it on the 2. See if I have any other 2s. Here it is. Drag it and drop it under the number 2. So now I have only one occurrence of the number 2. I see a number 3 here, so I'll click on that, drag and drop it on 3. And number 4, drag and drop it on, number 4. So when I look at it again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this last one is the shape of the turkey, which is the run. So I'm going to leave that second occurrence of the black. In fact, I can click on all of those other blacks, and I might add, I have some gray, I don't have very many yellow over there, so I'll go ahead and turn those to yellow. And now I really only have one occurrence of my number 1, but I do want to click on the 3 and drop it on the existing 3, so I only have to use that color one time. So that is how you want to go about doing your color sorting, and it's very easy. You simply get rid of any extras that you don't need, and then it's simply a drag and drop to get all those colors as they should be. Here's one other trick that I can share with you. Remember that this is run. I'm going to copy and paste that run. I am going to add one more color, just some light green. I don't even care what color that is, but I'm going to make that a light green. And I'm going to bring that back to be at the very top of the list. What I'm doing here is I'm setting myself up to use this turkey shape as a raw edge applique. Those of you that joined me earlier this month with Perfect Embroidery Pro, you already know that I love applique and I love raw edge. So in doing this turkey, I wanted to think about how could I do it, since we don't really have an applique situation here in WordArt. So now that he's down here, I'm going to make him be first in line, which we use the move to back, which really means move. You're moving so it stitches out first. And then I don't want it a bean stitch. I want it just a plain standard so that it will act as the applique position, and I can lay my fabric down over that stitch out all my words and then end with my bean stitch. And after that's taken care of, I simply would trim around my bird. Let me show you what you can do with your turkey. Here I've made him into a napkin ring for the Thanksgiving table. And you can see this pale orange that's back. What I actually did is float a piece of craft foam behind that. You could use felt, whatever you would like to float behind it. And then just to show you, on that foam I made two little slits in the foam only so that I could run the ribbon through and tie that around the napkin at the place setting. So that makes a fun thing for your Thanksgiving dinner. And certainly you could put whatever words in it that you wanted to. All right, I also want to address those of you that have played with word art and had those questions about words and so forth. You can see a couple things going on here that might not be things that you were able to get into play. Remember the question, I know you all have it, can we type a sentence? How do we get a space in there? I'm going to be perfectly honest. I took the time to place these words as I wanted them, to put a space in between. And let me show you, when we come back here, I'll actually open the design that I had for that shoe, and bringing it to screen, you can see that in this case where I have wear it, I would have done my spacing for 10 or 12, and I actually came into the text box, hit my enter so that I have two lines, and they will be centered, and apply it, and that wear it is how I got this wear it. In all of these, I typed in my text, in my bubble art, I typed in shoe fits, wear it, okay, with no space. So on each of these boxes, I went in, clicked in here, and put a space and applied it. You might not want to spend that much time. I spend lots of time on my software because I love doing it. To me, it's fun. So that's how I got this look. You certainly can recreate the look the same way. And I did the same for the hat. I only used two words, if, the, and I did not need to put spaces in there because that was with our orthogonal. Just two words allowed me to do that. Which takes us to answering Betty's question earlier, can you do a bubble text with just one word? You simply can. And depending on, here, I tell you what, we'll answer someone else's question, I think. I don't know if that was Betty. Oops. Let me put this in all caps. We'll do just one word. We'll go ahead and use that text envelope. And for this word, I'm going to find something that has a shape, the same shape top and bottom, and we'll go ahead and just use this double convex. Take out the rectangle, so now they only have that as an option. And see how my brights come up there? We'll go ahead though and put that back into fall and apply. And you can see how that one word is going to fill up. I probably would size this down a little bit, and again, I don't mind at all putting in just 100% of my words to add a few extra words in there. So yes, we can have one word, and this is what it looks like with your text envelopes in there with all your caps. So you see that little bit of bulge. Questions at this point, Dory? Especially answering those two?
Yes, but you can reduce the number of fallings to have just simply one falling in
just
there
one,
as well.
Quite honestly, if that's what we wanted, I probably would take out all words. Let me put in a steel. Take out all words and apply that. So I just have the shape. And then when that comes to screen, since I only wanted one word in there, I probably would type my own word
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's great.
Okay. Okay. And then we put that, we want some kind of fun color, not just black. Ooh, I like that color. That'll work. And get my select here, and at that point rotate it, and really you could have very much fun with this. We could do a stairs and apply that so it looked like it was falling. We could actually go back into the text and take those individual letters and place them wherever we'd like, really exaggerate it if we wanted to do that. And next webinar, we are also going to, oops, I don't have enough. Well, let's just do something fun like that. And next webinar, I am going to cover the text on path as well. So we could do a text on path kind of thing for your leaf. But that, if it were me, if I just wanted one word in there, that's how I would do it.
Super.
Okay. I want to address another question while I'm at a pause right here of my what we're going to talk about. And this goes out to Norma, who asked a very wonderful question, and quite honestly, one that has happened, I think, to almost all of us. Let's go into bubble text, and we'll pick a shape, something fun, and I like shoes as well as the next person. So we'll go ahead and pick our shoe, and we are so let's just play with it here. And we get so into the things that we are setting up with our measurements and our colors and all kinds of fun stuff that we go right past the border. Okay, so I know that we haven't chosen a border, but this is very realistic. We get all caught up here, and we go ahead and we spin, and we get just the way we want, and we bring it to screen, and we look at it and say, oh, phooey, I forgot to bring in my run stitch or my steel stitch. Because remember, this artwork, let's see if I choose the bright black, that shoe is artwork. It has no stitches to it. Okay, so this is what we have on screen. The answer, Norma, to this question, and again, thank you for sending in this question because so many people have it. And just as an aside, we are always happy to answer immediately questions on the forum. We come back here, go back into our bubble text, pick the exact same shape. We would go into objects, shoes, and we had our high heel. The trick, again, is to remember to bring in your artwork, or I'm sorry, your border, but no text. So we delete any words. It is important if you keep the same color theme and the size that you have used up above. Now, I know that when we brought in this shoe, I didn't change any of that. Okay? So we'll go ahead. We do have to apply. You can't just see it and have all of this set and say, okay, you have to apply before you come back. It has been rendered. We do an okay, and we now have this run stitch around our shoe. Okay? So that's an answer for Norma on what do we do when we forget a border. Now, I did it. I set myself up with an easy one because we knew that size. So let's make this a little bit more interesting. I'm going to delete the run that I just added to it. Here's our original shoe shape. Let's say we played around with it and we sized it for whatever reason. We sized it our own way, okay? And we definitely have a different size than the one that we brought into screen. We are going to do the same thing. Go into bubble text, go get the shape that we used originally, bring that high heel in, again with run stitch, no words. We have the settings are all the same. We're going to apply it. We okay it. And of course we bring it to screen and it doesn't fit. So what we need to do is, I can move this out just a little bit so I can select our original shoe, you would come over here to transform and write down, if you're over a certain age, I'm going to write this down, 6.39, 6.16. I will select the run stitch we just brought in plain, go into transform, and set those exact sizes, 6.39, and, oops, I'm going to take off that ratio, and 6.16, 6.39, 6.16. Apply that, and then drag that over and drop that on our shoe shape, and no worries if you forget your border. Okay?
Very good. Thank you so very much, Katherine.
Oh, I ran out of time.
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
Oh, and I'm so very sorry, but we had great questions tonight. Very quickly, because this is important for you all, a few words about stitching out. When you're ready to stitch out, analyze your design, your finished design. How big is it overall? If the majority of your words are in a micro font, you'll want to use a 10 needle, 60 weight thread. If your size is a little larger and you have more of a variety, you can use a 10 or 11 needle with a normal 40 weight thread. Think of your basic fabric. If you have lots of micro fonts, you're not going to want to use a lightweight silk or a very loosely woven cotton. Perhaps a light to medium weight canvas or duck cloth might be appropriate. You can use quality cotton, but be sure to stabilize it well. Maybe hoop with a tearaway or a cutaway mesh, but if you need to, float another piece of tearaway under the hoop. You've got to bring your embroidery knowledge and common sense to the project. Thank you so much for this evening. You now have what you need to get started creating your own personalized bubble text. And won't this be the best gift-giving season you have ever had? Have fun.
Have fun. Good night.
Good night, Dory. Thank you all.